The story begins by introducing Fernan Pellenberg, the young lord of the ducal house of Pellenberg, the wealthiest family in the army and empire. He's a student in the magic department at the Imperial Academy, endowed with a powerful family lineage, exceptional education, and vast wealth. His greatest weakness, however, is his obsessive love for money, earning him the nickname Money Fiend. As usual, he's conducting a morning meeting, reviewing reports from his family's merchant guild, and sharply critiquing anyone who fails to meet his high expectations. It's just another ordinary day until disaster strikes without warning. While walking and chatting with his assistant, Fernan glances up on a clear, sunny day with no sign of rain. He notices something strange in the sky, a bolt of lightning speeding toward him, striking him down. The shock is so intense it takes his breath away, and his mind becomes foggy. In that vulnerable moment, a foreign soul invades his body. Confused, Fernan demands to know who this intruder is. The soul chuckles, questioning if it's possessing someone. Fernan, bewildered, asks what it means by possession, but the entity spouts nonsense and rummages through his mind. Instinctively, Fernan senses it's trying to take control of his body. With the last of his fading mana, he lashes out at the invader. The entity screams under the attack, but Fernan's counterstrike succeeds, scattering the soul across his body and allowing him to absorb fragments of it. Suddenly, unfamiliar memories flood his mind, causing excruciating pain that tears through his skull. He snaps awake, and his assistant, concerned, asks if he's all right. Fernan sees strange text floating before his eyes of prophecy, predicting the world's grim end, with the rise of Solomon's 72 demon kings, plunging the world into chaos. Worst of all, it claims Fernan will ally with a demon and lose his entire fortune. It's a glimpse of a fate worse than death. He mutters in disbelief, refusing to accept a future where he lives like a pauper. Since that day, he's been obsessed with uncovering the truth about the soul, its attempt to possess him, and the bizarre memories it carried. His search yields nothing, but one thing is clear: the prophecy seems to be coming true. So far, it's been accurate, allowing him to anticipate problems and earn substantial profits. Yet, he's far from pleased. The prophecy's accuracy means his downfall is looming closer, so he must confirm its truth beyond doubt. His assistant asks how class went, and Fernan replies it was the usual. The assistant offers coffee, and Fernan agrees. As he picks up a newspaper to check academy news, his assistant notices his odd behavior, asking if he's been feeling unwell lately. Fernan denies it, but the assistant points out he seemed preoccupied for about 6 months, often zoning out and making bizarre decisions, as if possessed, possibly a lingering effect of the lightning strike. Fernan retorts that those strange choices ended up being correct. He spots a mention of someone from the army and family, named Ain, who has applied to the academy. Fernan declares this confirms his suspicions and rushes off. When his assistant tries to ask something, Fernan says he'll return after a brief trip to the south. The assistant protests, noting he just made coffee, but Fernan ignores him. We learn the Imperial Academy is a sprawling domain on Bardian, an island in the Empire's inland sea, its vast grounds an artificial realm crafted by magic. In the southern region lies a wide wetland. Fernan declares today is the day he'll finally verify the prophecy's truth. The prophecy highlights 3 key points that infuriate him, all tied to his ruin and descent into poverty. He corrects himself, saying it's not just 3, then lists them clearly. First, his fall into destitution. Second, the resurgence of Solomon's 72 demons from 1,000 years ago, and third, the rise of a figure destined to save the world by battling these demons. Fernan notes that this figure, Ain, is a descendant of the empire's founding emperor, Kinos Armen, a name every citizen knows. The House of Armen, which established the empire and 5 surrounding kingdoms, is now, 1,000 years later, a fallen house with only its honor intact. The prophecy identifies Ain, a descendant of this once imperial family, as the protagonist. After completing the entrance exam, Ain doesn't head back but ventures to the southern wetlands, chasing a map left by the first emperor to his family. From the moment he enrolled, events have unfolded around him, detailed as if in a novel. Observing Ain's actions is the best way to confirm the prophecy's validity. Moreover, Ain is directly linked to Fernan's grim future, as he delivers an excommunication document. What's baffling is that Fernan doesn't know why Ain comes to despise him, leading to his downfall. The prophecy book is partly illegible, with unreadable sections, so Fernan can only grasp the general flow of some events, not their precise causes. The stated reason for his ruin is aligning with a demon, which seems nonsensical. Dismounting his horse, Fernan muses that the location should be nearby. Ain is searching for a hidden dungeon in the wetlands, where a sword imbued with the spirit of the Empire's first royal knight, Gardener Alvain Farson, lies dormant. Fernan remarks that if the prophecy is correct, Ain is the ideal hero to save the world from demons. If Ain weren't so talented, Fernan would have crushed him long ago, given Ain's role in his prophesied poverty. He smells blood and recalls the prophecy mentioning Ain's injury from a croaker's attack en route to the dungeon. Despite his heroic destiny, Ain's talents haven't fully awakened, and a croaker, a swamp apex predator, would be formidable. Fernan follows a blood trail to a tree, suspecting it marks the cave entrance. Everything aligns with the prophecy so far. He decides to check if Ain is inside but spots him nearby, wondering why he hasn't entered the dungeon yet and if he arrived too early. Fernan decides to act confident, declaring the area off-limits to freshmen. Ain asks if he knows him, and Fernan replies that everyone in the Empire knows him. Ain apologizes, admitting he doesn't recognize Fernan, and asks his name. Fernan introduces himself, and Ain is surprised, recognizing the name. Fernan reminds him he's a senior. Ain acknowledges this, and Fernan asks if he fought a lizard man, noting his injury. Ain corrects him, saying it was a croaker. Fernan remarks on his bad luck, as croakers are rare, and tosses him an elixir, explaining it's a top-grade potion, far better than low-quality ones. Ain addresses him as young lord, but Fernan insists on just his name. Ain complies, and Fernan says he doesn't need payment. Despite his family's fall, Ain's imperial blood suggests he won't be worthless, so Fernan calls it an investment. Ain notes that Fernan doesn't seem as money-obsessed as rumors suggest and might be a decent person, thanking him. Fernan grumbles about the waste, cursing the prophecy. He lectures Ain on his luck and advises caution on his return. Ain bows, grateful for the kindness, but Fernan reveals he didn't leave instead. He hid nearby, concealing his presence. Ain drinks the potion and enters the dungeon, with Fernan following shortly after. Inside, Fernan confirms the dungeon's reality, noting no reaction upon entry, suggesting it's already cleared. He observes numerous magic lamps, barely emanating mana, and picks one up, noting it faintly absorbs surrounding mana semi-permanent magic lamp. He wonders why Ain left such valuable items behind. Fernan reflects that Ain seemed clueless earlier, unlike the prophecy's depiction, and questions if he can trust the world's fate to him. The prophecy described Ain entering the dungeon injured, worsened by a fall at the entrance, his body battered. His low-quality potions didn't fully heal him, yet he pressed on through pain, drawn to a plain but captivating sword on an altar. When Ain grasped it, a radiant light illuminated the cavern. Upon blinking, he was no longer in the dungeon but in a secluded academy alley. Fernan notes a faint magical trace in the altar's sword mark, confirming Ain's absence and the prophecy's truth, including his own excommunication. Scratching his head, Fernan laments the prospect of becoming a beggar, calling it absurd. Ain, the prophecy's protagonist and demon-slaying hero, is also Fernan's downfall. Yet, Ain's current persona differs from the prophecy's honor-driven figure, making a careless approach risky. Fernan ponders how to handle this. His assistant, Hyde, asks what he means. Fernan describes a promising stock guaranteed to grow, asking Hyde what he'd do. Hyde says he'd invest without hesitation. Fernan asks what if the stock's personality clashes with his own. Hyde questions why that matters, recalling the Duke's saying that money can align even personalities. Fernan agrees, realizing the demons and destruction complicate things, but the principle remains: invest, risk, and reap huge rewards. Personality differences are minor compared to vast wealth. Needing more information on Ain, Fernan grabs his coat, declaring he must meet him immediately. Hyde inquires about the guest expected later, but Fernan departs without responding. Hyde remarks that he's once again engrossed in texts about the prophecy. He likely knows something. We discover that at the academy, dormitories are allocated based on entrance exam rankings. Ranks 1 through 10 reside in the prestigious Lavaz dorm for the elite. Ranks 11 to 30 occupy the Blessed dorm for exceptional students, while those ranked below 30 are assigned to the so-called Debs dorm for the less distinguished. We encounter Gardner, or at least his ego, now housed within a sword. He's shouting, questioning how a descendant of the Armin family could end up in the Debs dorm instead of a superior one, especially at their own family's academy. It's unthinkable. If the Emperor knew, he'd rise from his tomb and wreak havoc on these demons with an axe. Ain asks why he's suddenly mentioning demons. Gardner insists that such a travesty could only occur due to demonic interference. Ain replies that it's unavoidable he's here because he's not strong enough. Gardner scoffs, declaring that no Armenian descendant could possibly be this feeble. Ain blames the first emperor, explaining that he dismantled the imperial succession system, replacing it with an election among the 7 electorates. Additionally, he donated most of their lands and wealth to the empire. Over a century, as other elector families claimed the throne, the donated territories slipped from their grasp, and the family's fortunes dwindled, even losing some secret sword techniques passed down through generations. Despite being an elector, Ain lacked proper sword training due to these circumstances. Gardner insists that Ain still possesses talent and vows to provide all possible resources to restore their family's former glory. He speculates that the late emperor foresaw this and placed Ain here for that very purpose. A knock sounds at the door, and Fernan's voice asks if Ain is inside. Gardner wonders who it might be. Ain, clueless, calls out to ask who's there. Fernan identifies himself, and Ain opens the door, asking what brings him. Fernan inquires if Ain is occupied, and Ain responds that he's free, with no pressing tasks. Fernan says that's perfect, and asks if Ain can spare a moment, noting that the area is too noisy with everyone moving in and out, chattering incessantly. He suggests they find a quieter spot. Ain asks him to wait 10 minutes, promising to come out soon. Fernan grumbles about waiting a full 10 minutes and lectures Ain about lacking discipline. Ain corrects himself, saying he'll be out in 5 minutes. Fernan says he'll wait outside and shuts the door. Ain mutters that he won't manage that. Gardner demands to know who that was. Ain explains that it's the eldest son of the Pellenberg family. Gardner dismisses them as mere wealthy brats, questioning what makes them so special when their only asset is money and why they're ordering a royal heir around. Ain ponders why Fernan wants to meet, certain it's not about potion money, since that's an investment. Later during their meeting, Fernan notices Ain brought his sword and asks about it. Ain says it makes him feel secure, emphasizing he has no malicious intent. Fernan nods, understanding that most knights can't stand being parted from their blades, and assumes it's the one infused with Gardner's ego. Ain asks why Fernan wanted to meet, and Fernan downplays it, saying he was just thinking of grabbing dinner, and tells Ain to order anything he likes. Ain hesitates, noting the place seems pricey. Fernan insists that Ain stop refusing when a senior offers drinks. Ain agrees, saying he'll check the menu. As Ain browses it, Fernan observes him, noting that Ain appears naive and kind, but wonders how such a gentle kid transforms so drastically in the future. He asks Ain about his plans after graduation. Ain looks taken aback, and Fernan explains that students typically join the academy to build influence, but the Armin family always cited strengthening their lineage as an excuse to avoid socializing. So, it's surprising to see an Armenian enrolled now. Ain says he's tired of being mocked as a fallen imperial family, asserting that their blood remains royal, even if only in name. That's why he aims to become a royal knight and restore his family's honor. Fernan remarks that Ain's eyes shift when he speaks of his dream, showing ambition and resolve strong enough to achieve his goals, along with great pride in his lineage, meaning he's not as naive as Fernan initially thought. Fernan asks if Ain has any allergies. They engage in a brief, warm-side conversation. Later, Fernan reflects that he now understands what kind of person Ain is. He had considered sponsoring Ain but realizes it would have insulted Ain's pride, given how much he values honor, as foretold in the prophecy. For someone like Ain, a subtle push-and-pull approach is better than overt generosity. Fernan's priority is to gradually build trust and secure Ain's loyalty. When the time comes, he'll draw Ain in like a fish, using his wealth strategically to gain everything he needs. Hyde asks Fernan where he's been and whether he met with the bereaved. Fernan says no, curious why Hyde mentions the bereaved out of nowhere. Hyde reminds him that he summoned Luina Birchfa for slacking off. Fernan asks if that was today, and Hyde says he would have sent her back if he knew Fernan would be so late. He told Luina that Fernan wouldn't be long, but she left after waiting 3 hours, likely thinking Fernan deliberately snubbed her to break her spirit. Fernan shrugs it off, saying it's fine. Crushing her determination makes her easier to control, and he's invested heavily in binding the Birchfa family, so it must succeed. Suddenly, Fernan clutches his head in pain. Hyde asks if he's all right, and Fernan says he's unsure why, but his head is throbbing intensely. He notices the prophecy revealing previously unreadable parts, wondering why it's appearing now. It describes a woman with flowing brown hair and eyes like aquamarine. Only fragments describe her. Her sword is exquisitely noble and beautiful, as if alive, and she dances under the moonlight. Ain encounters her and is enthralled. Her exceptional talent rivals a royal knight's, yet she harbors malevolence. If her shackles are broken, she could soar to her full potential. The shackles, however, are the Pellenberg family, and Ain must free her from them. Fernan is stunned, wondering if this explains why Ain hates him in the future because of Luina. He mutters that things just got far more complicated. We see Luina seated, visibly irritated about Fernan standing her up yesterday. She questions why he summoned her again, wondering if he's trying to crush her spirit since she's drowning in debt. From across the room, Fernan senses her frustration. We learn that the Birchfee family traditionally held the title of Border Counts, once a mighty family guarding the Northern Empire and one of the 7 prince-electors. But massive monster waves devastated their fortress-like family, and their glory faded. Desperate for funds to rebuild, the Birchfee sold their golden patent, which granted their elector status, but it wasn't enough. The Pellenberg family head, Fernan's father, offered aid not out of pity, but as an opportunity. Lacking in swordsmanship despite their magical prowess, the Pellenbergs coveted magic swordsmen. Fernan's father blocked other nobles from supporting the Birchfee, forcing them to borrow heavily from his family. While they avoided ruin, they were burdened with crushing interest fees. A little more pressure, and they might have surrendered their magic swordsmanship. Luina, of all people, is destined to become Ain's lover. Fernan reflects that, regardless of the magic swordsmanship, since she's tied to Ain, he must ensure she doesn't despise him. He enters, noting she's early, and apologizes for yesterday, claiming he was distracted and didn't mean to forget their meeting. Luina curtly says enough, noting that the unfortunate always bear the unfairness. Fernan insists he didn't intend it, but she says if that's his stance, she understands. He stresses his sincerity, and she asks why he wanted to meet. Fernan says she already knows, and begins pondering how to win her favor. Phase 1 of his plan begins. He mentions that starting in the 2nd year, there's a joint class between the magic and night departments. She immediately refuses. He protests that he hasn't finished, asking how she knew his intent. She says it's obvious he wants her as a partner, and she'd never agree partnering with him is pointless. As the department's 2nd-ranked student, she has better options than someone ranked 10th. Fernan offers to waive all her accumulated interest if she partners with him for 3 years, on the condition that she accepts him as her sponsor. She questions why, and he explains that joint classes are crucial, worth 5 credits. She clarifies that's not her issue. He wants to be both her partner and sponsor, and he might not know she's on a scholarship. Fernan counters that she sends most of it to her family, living poorer than most commoners. Sponsoring her is purely an investment in her talent, nothing more. She notes that nobles rarely sponsor other nobles, and like Ain, she values loyalty. She wonders if he's insulting her, but he explains that unlike the Armenians, their families are directly entangled, so she'll have to accept his offer despite her reluctance. He urges her not to let pride get in the way, affirming her talent even if she resents him. Phase 2 begins. Fernan mentions seeing her recent sword dance, describing it as supremely noble and beautiful, and her eyes light up. He continues, saying it's alive and noble. She wouldn't refuse someone who recognizes her skill. She asks what he means, and he says he can't forget the day he first saw her dance. He launches into poetic praise, which she finds cringeworthy, telling him to stop. he persists, saying he hasn't found the perfect word to describe her sword dance's beauty. Embarrassed, she agrees to be his partner if he stops. His mission succeeds. Later, her maid reads the contract. 3 years of interest waivers and sponsorship, kept private, with a clause to end it upon graduation. In return, Luina must be Fernan's class partner for 3 years. Luina says the terms are too good to refuse, and he recognized her sword dance's potential. The maid asks what he saw, and Luina recounts how he called it noble, beautiful, and alive, still searching for the perfect word to describe it. The maid, furious, suspects he's trying to seduce her, noting his good looks and intense eyes. Luina denies it, but the maid insists he's using charm tactics. Luina admits the interest waiver will help her family, so she'll tolerate it. The maid notes Luina's 2nd rank versus Fernan's 10th. A knock interrupts, and the maid opens the door to hide, who says Fernan requests Luina at the training grounds immediately. The maid glares, annoyed. Luina wonders what Fernan wants at the training yard, unable to guess his intentions. In the training room, Fernan, dressed impressively and holding a staff, notes that Luina is the perennial 2nd-rank student. The top 2nd-year student, Alone Donards, has never been defeated by her, but Fernan believes she has the talent to become one of the 10 royal knights. He'll soon discover if she's a hidden gem. Luina approaches, unsure what's happening, asking what he wants. Fernan says he doesn't want her to think partnering with him offers no benefits and aims to prove he's not far behind her. She wonders if he's trying to beat her to prove himself, acknowledging that, despite being 10th, he qualified for Labatish Hall, indicating skill. Still, the gap between 2nd and 10th is clear. He agrees and suggests they begin. She grips her blade, saying if that's what he wants, he can make the first move. He exclaims joyfully as he starts channeling a spell through his staff. We see glowing circles form above her head as stones begin to materialize. He continues chanting enchantments as the rocks hurtle toward her. With a single swing, she slices them all in 2 and charges straight at Fernan. While the debris from the initial attack still falls, she surges forward, cutting through the fragments. Now nearly face to face with him, she wonders about his next move. She locks eyes on his magic circle and swings at it. In a flash, Fernan appears behind her on the opposite side of the arena, and the magic circle persists as the training grounds floor shatters. She remarks that she's quietly impressed, noting the arena is built with powerful magic that ordinary spells can't even scratch. Watching him prepare, she questions if he's been concealing his true strength all along. As rocks keep falling, a dazzling light flares before her. She declares it's impossible. Not only is he casting multiple spells at once, but he's also chaining advanced magic together. She ponders how much mana he truly possesses. This is far beyond the abilities of a 10th-ranked mage, and she realizes she completely misjudged him. At this rate, she'll lose. Her eyes glow blue, and an aura matching their hue radiates, creating a wind barrier around her. This time, Fernan is the one surprised, and he grins. Cracks spread through the training area as it begins to collapse. The rocks persist. She tightens her grip on her sword, darting through them unscathed. Leaping from stone to stone toward Fernan, she sees him calmly casting another spell. What an impressive scene. His staff then drops to the ground, and she looks furious. Stopping just short of his head, he declares his surrender. she questions if he's mocking her. He insists he's not simply out of mana. A mage can't defeat a knight without mana. She notes he doesn't seem to be pretending. He's truly drained and can't beat her now. She blocked all his attacks, so it's her victory. Yet she feels uneasy, as it doesn't feel like a win. He mentions he has something for her. Reaching into his coat, he pulls out a gift, explaining it's because she won and he heard she likes chocolate. He offers whiskey chocolate crafted by his family, adding that if she doesn't like it, he can get other kinds. If those don't suit her, he'll find whatever she enjoys. She stops drooling, demanding to know if he really investigated her. He denies going to such lengths for one person, telling her to wipe her drool. He only checked the personal details of top-ranked students. Annoyed, she calls it a background check, labeling him a creep. She sighs, saying she can't believe he's giving her chocolate for winning a duel and that she's not a kid. He says she doesn't have to take it, but she snatches it, clarifying she never refused. He chuckles, suggesting they can get along from now on. She asks why. He looks confused, and she explains that his immense mana, enough to unleash those powerful attacks, is unfathomable. So why is he only ranked 10th? He smiles, saying, "It's obvious." A merchant stays out of the spotlight. Later, his staff lies on his desk, some parts scattered. Hyde asks what happened, and why he destroyed the mana storage and amplifier. Fernan explains he dueled Luina, who was formidable. Despite his preparation, everything was wrecked. She depleted all his mana, and he still couldn't win. Hyde questions why he'd use such valuable items in a duel, and if she's worth it. Fernan calls it a future investment. Hyde asks for clarification, but Fernan says he'll explain later. Hyde wonders if it's a side effect of lightning strikes. In Fernan's mind, he reflects that it was stunning his judgment was correct. Her swordplay is swift and graceful, almost regal. He understands why his father covets their sword art. She's incredibly skilled, yet he wonders why she's never claimed the top rank. He speculates it's due to her poor equipment, ignoring Hyde entirely. Hyde asks what he'll tell the Duke, as the Birchfee secret sword art was his father's lifelong desire. Fernan admits he didn't think much at the time, but now he's a bit concerned, asking if his father might disown him. Hyde says no, he'd likely just kill him to end it. Fernan insists his father wouldn't kill his son for disrupting his plans. He decides to write to his father, vividly imagining his father's shock. Anxiety consumes him after sending the letter, though he tries to ignore it. Days later, his father responds. Reading the letter, Fernan notes it arrived faster than expected. Hyde, tearful, says, "It's finally happened." Fernan asks if there's a separate message, and Hyde, crying, says no, feeling today is his last day serving him. Fernan reassures him that this won't lead to disownment, and that excommunication would be for demonic ties, not this. His father claims he's possessed by a demon. Fernan insists he must see his father immediately to avoid any demonic entanglement, as prophesied. He can't admit to finding a prophecy book, as it doesn't physically exist and he can't prove it. Telling the truth would make his father think he's delusional or ruin the family. He needs something to offset the loss. His father notes Fernan's composure, wondering if he's on drugs or possessed by the demon slain by the first emperor. If not, he demands an explanation. Fernan says he sought a better investment in Birchfee. His father asks what could surpass the sword art, and Fernan says he can't reveal it. His father, frustrated, says this isn't a request. Fernan is risking their fortune. Fernan acknowledges this, but stands firm, confident he can yield greater profits than the sword art, if entrusted with the birch fee matter. His father demands to know the source of his confidence. Fernan, resolute, refuses to say. His father calls it absurd, saying he wasn't raised to be reckless and that this can't be resolved with a tantrum. Fernan reluctantly uses the prophecy to strike a deal, saying he's not throwing a tantrum. In exchange for handling the birch fee matter, he'll share exclusive information. His father asks what it is, and Fernan reveals he runs a personal intelligence group. His father doubts it surpasses their families, questioning what's worth abandoning birch fee for. Fernan discloses an undiscovered magic crystal mine west of the Aruz Mountains in Viscount Donard's territory. His father, unaware of it, questions how Fernan found it with a mediocre intelligence group. Fernan quips that children digging in dirt sometimes find coins, and this mine could cover Birch V's losses and Morea Mountain of wealth. Magic stones, rich in mana, are highly valuable, making them lucrative. The Aruz Mountains deposit was only briefly mentioned in the prophecy, unverified by Fernan, but it should buy time. He notes the Donard family ship sank in a typhoon, weakening their finances, which could be leveraged to secure the mine. Fernan thinks it's best to delay revealing the prophecy. His father says if true, it could offset the damage, but verification is needed, which will take time. Fernan should return to his studies and await further word. Fernan agrees, hoping he's quelled his father's anger, though it feels like he's lost a decade of life. His father calls him back, startling him. Fernan wonders if he erred. His father suggests they eat together since he's there. Fernan agrees. As he leaves, his father tells the butler he's disappointed that the black turtle couldn't uncover Fernan's findings. The butler apologizes, promising to review the intelligence unit. The father advises leniency and asks the butler's opinion of Fernan. The butler says he's become a respectable merchant by dealing with the Duke. The father remains skeptical about the mine's discovery, but notes they'll learn more about Fernan's Golden Pillar intelligence group, possibly specializing in ores. He recalls Fernan's love for ores, choosing earth magic despite his fire affinity. Verification is pending, but the butler suggests Fernan's network may exceed expectations. The father smiles, marveling at Fernan's extraordinary actions and growing excited. He instructs the butler to investigate Luina, curious how she influenced Fernan. The butler asks if he means they're in love. The father says investments need profit, and Fernan's actions suggest another motive, perhaps youthful love, though he suspects more. He wonders why a money-driven son chose this path. The scene shifts to Luina eating. Fernan asks if she's sure Alia Tortega paired with Carlos Denef. She confirms, saying Carlos approached Alia after her rejection. Fernan asks if Alia is still 4th ranked, and Luina says yes, having risen from 5th with remarkable progress. Fernan wonders why she'd share their partnership, as it could spark rumors. Luina says it'll come out eventually, and people claim Alia did it for money. It's expected, and she must handle it, though it's not entirely false. Fernan agrees, admitting his love for money and its limitless potential. Luina retorts, that's why he's called the money demon, another reason she dislikes him. He slides 2 items toward her, a mandrake root elixir and a voucher for high-quality equipment from his company's weapon shop. She inquires why he would help her, noting she can't repay him. He reminds her of their agreement, asking if she's forgotten the contract they signed. She retorts that, even so, providing her with gear crafted by the Golden Turtle, presumably his company's name, eyes, far too extravagant to be considered a mere gift. Fernan stiffens, and she points out that his reaction suggests he agrees it's excessive. He stammers a denial, shaking his head, but deep down, he knows she's right. Still, if this is the cost of winning her trust and avoiding a future where he's destitute, it's a small price to pay. Better yet, if she grows strong enough to battle demons alongside him, that's an even greater advantage. She insists the gift is too much, and she can't accept it. He counters that rejecting a sponsorship violates their contract and could lead to its termination. He begins explaining the penalties, and she abruptly transforms into a demon, hastily agreeing to take the equipment. He mentions they'll meet up in class, since he has work to attend to and will head there later. Yet, she remains fixated on how costly the items are, even for a sponsorship. She starts questioning whether the contract even included a penalty clause, convinced it didn't. She wonders why he'd lie and gift her such valuable items, pondering if he's truly trying to woo her and steal her magic swordsmanship, as the maid warned. She thinks to herself that he can try, but he'll never succeed. From a vantage point above, Fernan observes, noting that Ain should be at this lecture and wondering where he is. He spots him at the first lecture of the first-year night department, titled War and Real-Life Sparring. This course evaluates students' abilities through friendly duels. According to prophecy, Ain, who wields Sir Gardener's ego sword, begins to shine and gain fame here. His journey as a hero destined to save the world starts in this moment. Someone approaches Fernan, remarking on how rare it is to see him here. Fernan greets him, addressing him as Your Majesty, and asking how he's been. The prince tells him to skip the formalities, and Fernan explains that, since this is their first meeting as sophomores, he feels obliged to be courteous. The prince asks what's happening and whether he should keep tabs on any new students. Fernan replies that he always monitors those in the rankings, then asks why the prince is here, speculating if it's to see Ain. The prince grins, saying it's only natural to be curious about Ain, a member of the former royal family, suddenly enrolling in the academy after a century of absence. We learn the prince's name is Luger Schwaben, the second prince of the current imperial family of the empire. The Schwaben family has held the throne for 3 generations since their election as the imperial family 100 years ago. Though they share origins with the Armenian family, the former and current imperial families now have a tense relationship. Luger deeply values authority and wants the Schwaben lineage to retain the throne. Ain's strong claim to legitimacy naturally makes him a concern. Luger mentions he's not the only one curious about Ain, pointing out a man named von Kalbunder. He explains that von entered the academy as the second highest-ranking student this year and is seizing the chance to replace the fallen Armenian family as an elector. There's no other reason for von to be fixated on Ain. Fernan muses that it's quite a coincidence, wondering if this is where the rivalry between Luger and von begins. In every heroic saga, a protagonist must face a villain to grow. As von stands before Luger, the prince instructs him to defeat Ain and make it clear that the past is gone. Von agrees, vowing to crush Ain and sever the Armenian sprout, establishing himself as the story's next antagonist. The referee calls for Ain and another student, Anton, to take the stage. Fernan wonders if fate has brought them all here to witness the start of Ain's journey, noting that this year promises to be intriguing and worth watching, especially since Ain is likely to be declared the victor. His performance has already begun spreading his name among the professors. Fernan ponders if this prophecy will validate his investment in Ain. The referee signals the start, and Anton charges straight at Ain. Caught slightly off guard, Ain manages to block the attack. Anton quickly follows with a strike aimed at Ain's throat, but Ain flips backward through the air, dodging it. Landing, he's breathing heavily, clearly winded from the brief clash. Luger comments that he heard the class randomly assigns sparring partners, and that Ain is unlucky, as Anton, who ranked 10th in the entrance exam, is a tough opponent for Ain, who placed 38th. He adds that being pushed back so one-sidedly is unsurprising given Ain's low rank, and finding nothing worth watching, he prepares to leave. But something catches his eye. Ain swings his sword down toward Anton's head, the blade grazing just past his face, slicing only a bit of his clothing. Anton stares at the cut, stunned, as are Luger and Vaughn. Fernan observes that Ain was likely thrown off by Anton's aggressive opening, and his obvious confusion reveals his inexperience. Yet, once he regains composure, the tide turns. Anton is in disbelief that he nearly lost to someone ranked 38th. He unleashes his aura, which surges through the arena. Other students comment that Ain is performing better than expected, but Anton will still win. Luger remarks that for a 38th ranked student to force the 10th ranked to use aura, Ain is at least living up to his family's name. He adds that for someone with no talent, Ain is only slightly better than Anton, who remains dominant. Fernan questions what Luger means by no talent, as that's not Ain's weakness. The only thing holding Ain back from standing out is an unsupportive environment. Ain and Anton exchange blows, moving swiftly across the arena. Fernan declares that Ain is special, chosen by prophecy as this world's protagonist. Ain's eyes glow, catching Anton off guard. Fernan continues, saying there's a reason Ain is destined to shine. Everyone watches as Ain leaps behind Anton, sending his sword flying. Anton collapses to his knees, defeated. The referee declares Ain the winner, and he raises his sword triumphantly. The crowd roars his name, just as the prophecy foretold. Fernan, grinning like a schemer, says he can hear the prophets rolling in. He just needs to nurture Ain and make him an ally. Next, he plans to win over Luina. Back in Fernan's class, students whisper about why Luina would team up with him. Fernan notes they're drawing too much attention, and she replies that the gossip will die down eventually. He asks if she's used the elixir and switched to the new equipment, and whether she likes them. She glances at him, inwardly thrilled after equipping the new sword and feeling a powerful surge, but she downplays it, saying it's not bad. A woman then asks if everyone is present. As she steps to the front, we see the referee from Ain's fight. She introduces herself as Professor Rosalia from the Magic Department and presents the referee, Professor Grad, from the Night Department. They announce a joint class between the Magic and Night Departments, and the lecture begins. It resembles a scenario from a dungeon defense game. Rosalia explains that they've all received maps from the assistants. The first lecture is a practical exercise, as real practice is the best way to confirm learning. They'll now be thrown into a field exercise. The map Grad distributed marks a destination they must reach in exactly 4 hours, not too early or too late, arriving precisely at 2 p.m. He asks if there are questions. A student inquires if this will affect their grades, and Grad confirms it's as significant as midterms and finals. Another asks about student conflicts. Rosalia says capturing others earns bonus points and, with no further questions, they proceed. Some students tap their spears on the ground, and a bright light engulfs the room, teleporting them to a forest. Fernan and Luina stand side by side, and he scans their surroundings, wondering where they are. She says they need to figure that out, but first they should check the map. They immediately encounter two students, Jane Hux and Ned Palin. Luina asks what to do, and Fernan remarks that his usual self would dismiss these low-ranked scraps and walk away. But he defers to her decision. She says that's good, as she's after bonus points. They'll deal with these two, then study the map. Fernan suggests using magic to make things easier, and she asks if there's a spell to pinpoint their location. He explains they can climb to high ground and survey the area. She questions how that's different from using the map. Ned tells Jane it's time to flee, but Luina charges in, declaring her need for bonus points and warning them not to try escaping. As she strikes at them, a magic circle appears, blocking her attack, likely saving them. The spell from a scroll fades. Fernan notes that the maps from the assistants included a defensive spell. Luina grumbles that, had she known, she wouldn't have held back. Fernan points out that she still left them both in tears. Their card vanishes, and Grad announces another team's elimination, noting that students are dropping faster than expected. Rosalia adds that, intriguingly, no one has been eliminated monstersomely by student conflicts. Grad asks if she's watching any particular pair. She says, based on grades, Ludger and Alone are notable, as are Carlos and Alia, but Luina and Fernan intrigue her most. Grad asks if it's because they're causing a stir. He notes Luina is at a disadvantage paired with Fernan and wonders if it's about money, though Fernan doesn't seem to care about grades. Rosalia suggests there's another reason for their partnership, unrelated to grades. Grad asks what it could be, and she explains that Fernan, despite always ranking 10th, has perfect written exams but loses just enough points in practicals to stay there. It's unusual to consistently hit 10th place exactly. She suspects he avoids standing out. Grad asks if he's hiding his skills, and she confirms, mentioning the recent destruction of the training grounds which professors investigated. It was Fernan and Luina's doing. Grad is shocked, saying no student could have that power, but Rosalia says that's why she's curious not just about Fernan's true skills, but why he suddenly stopped hiding them. Fernan stands on a stone pillar studying the map, while Luina defeats opponents below. He determines they're in the western mountainous region. She shouts that she's done and asks if he's ready to move. He confirms they need to head northeast, noting several people en route. She's thrilled, and he asks if they should find the next pair immediately. She agrees, eager for more bonus points. An attack comes, but Fernan blocks it instantly with earth magic. A voice says they've finally met. It's Carlos and Alia. Luina is frustrated, questioning where the honor lies in launching a sudden ambush. Carlos retorts, asking how there's any shame in a fight and whether they've forgotten the professor's words. He insists they'll need to return to the academy, and there's no chance he'd let them off so easily after crossing paths like this. Luina wonders why Carlos is so irritated, and Fernan remarks that Carlos was the one persistently asking her to team up, so his ego is likely bruised because she was taken from him. He adds that holding a grudge over something so trivial is immature. Carlos, shocked that they're brushing him off, hears Luina declare that she belongs to no one and thus can't be stolen. They continue to ignore him. Fernan comments that for someone so physically impressive, Carlos's behavior is surprisingly petty. Flustered, Carlos snaps, "Just face me already." Fernan acknowledges that a confrontation is inevitable. Luina, however, sees an advantage, noting they could earn extra points for defeating a high-ranking duo. But since they're top tier, Fernan can't just stand by this time. He assures her he understands and will back her up so she can go all out. Skeptical, Luina tells him not to overdo it, as they haven't even discussed their combined tactics yet. She questions what kind of assistance he plans to provide. He replies that as a team, fighting apart is pointless, urging her not to fret. As rocks start forming around them, they create a barrier, shaping into a dome enclosing all four. Fernan urges her to trust him. The scene shifts to Rosalia, looking stunned as she notices a major skirmish unfolding in the western mountain area. Grad wonders if students are already battling monsters. Rosalia clarifies that monsters don't appear here and suggests they investigate closer. Grad notes it's the two from the pair she mentioned earlier. She finds it thrilling and Grad agrees, eager to witness Fernan's true abilities. Inside the dome Fernan formed, Luina and Alia charge at each other, while Fernan and Carlos do the same. Luina feels her body unusually light, wondering if Fernan used support magic and when he managed it. As he multitasks with spells, she's astonished at his efficiency. He winks, boasting about his skill, and she grimaces, muttering, "What's wrong with this guy?" She parries Alia's strike, reminding herself to stay focused and act fast. With a powerful swing, she cracks the ground beneath them. Alia struggles to resist, and Carlos moves to assist her. He unleashes a lightning bolt that separates Luina from Alia, the electricity coursing up her sword and enveloping her, leaving her immobilized. Alia taunts that she's trapped now, but Luina insists it's nothing, straining to break free. Alia, denying her the chance, leaps off the ground, preparing her attack. She swings down, shattering a rock that crumbles to the floor. Alia is stunned, and Carlos demands to know what just happened. Luina, now teleported beside Fernan, also asks what occurred. He explains it's a new magic his family developed, swapping objects of equal weight, which he learned quickly for its utility. She questions how he knows her weight, and he admits it was in the student records. Dodging Carlos's attack, she lifts Fernan, noting the rock looks heavy but isn't, and vows to destroy the records herself. He pleads for gentleness as she tosses him around, and she snaps that he needs to move carefully since he just saved her. She says she'll handle Alia, so he must focus on countering Carlos. Fernan, embarrassed about rolling on the ground constantly, spots a massive magic circle above and notes he was waiting for Carlos to use it. Carlos's specialty is summoning lightning that rains down relentlessly, a colossal light pillar formed by dozens of simultaneous strikes. His multitasking yields destructive power far beyond a typical student, making him the department's top rank. Fernan reveals he researched how to counter it and pulls out 2 orbs, curious about their effectiveness. Coating them with aura, he makes them float as he and Carlos engage in a magical duel. Carlos launches his attack, and as Fernan is struck, Luina shouts his name. As the smoke clears, Fernan stands unscathed. Carlos, incredulous, demands to know how. Fernan explains the orbs are mana-absorbing storage devices, which he tosses to the ground. He modified them, and though costly and challenging to create, they proved effective. With refinement and mass production, they could be marketable. Carlos accuses him of cheating with an artifact. Fernan counters, echoing Carlos's earlier words about battle being real practice, leaving Carlos flustered. Fernan signals Luina to take her turn. As Carlos turns, realizing he forgot about her, Fernan urges her to end the fight. Aura glows from her eyes as she swings upward, shattering Alia's protective spell. Elsewhere, Luger and someone, presumed to be alone, observe. Luger notes only 2 of the 4 remain, and alone deduces there's a dropout. Assistants instantly teleport dropouts to the destination. No student mage can withstand Carlos's lightning, so Fernan and Luina seem unlucky. Luger corrects him, revealing Fernan and Luina are the ones who prevailed. Fernan, who avoids the spotlight, has concealed his true strength, but paired with Luina, who's driven by grades, he can't hide his power. To match her pace, his rank will rise, and his circle filled with those eager to topple him if he slips won't let a rival go unchallenged. Behind them, a group of students follows Luger's lead, trusting he'll guide them safely to the destination for a high test rank. However, they must first eliminate a specific pair, none other than Fernan and Luina, whom they aim to capture.